Hello Canada, welcome back to another edition of the Canadian Citizen Journal. I'm your host, Elias Tagay. So Bill Gates, well, he just proved what pretty much anybody with half a brain has known for a long time. Follow the money. The global green game is over. We're watching it in real time completely fall apart. Now, Bill Gates, of course, is still salvaging what he can while he transfers wealth to kind of newer projects. That's what greedy, evil people do. But yeah, suddenly it's not the end of the world anymore, and humanity will go on. Alberta referendum, this is fascinating. Now, I was one of the, as far as I know, I was the first. If you know of anybody that actually beat me to this, let me know. But I said when this whole Canada First counter referendum that was being pushed was it going to backfire, because it was still a referendum to leave Canada. Well, guess what, people? It's been confirmed. They have enough signatures. Alberta's going to get to vote on whether or not they want to stay in Canada. And we're going to deal with a little bit of the numbers on that rally. And we're going to touch on a few more things here as well. I'm going to try and race to get this show out. I have some meetings that I have to get to in the city, so let's get through this as quick as possible.
Meanwhile, Bill Gates has spent more than a decade warning about the dangers of climate change.
You think that climate change could be a bigger disaster than COVID. Why is that?
Well, certainly climate change will make entire ecosystems die off. It'll make parts of the world, impossible to live in. And so the actual economic and death toll from climate change will be much, much, much greater than what we have with this pandemic.
But he's changing his tune now. He's actually rejecting the doomsday narrative in a new memo saying, quote, although climate change will have serious consequences, particularly for people in the poorest countries, it will not lead to humanity's demise. People will be able to live and thrive in most places on Earth for the foreseeable future.
So let's bring in the host of
Our climate change
News
expert.
Saturday night, our climate change
How about it?
expert,
Yeah.
comedian Jimmy Fallon.
Things people don't know. I graduated climate school, and of course, Bill Gates graduated the Gavin Newsom School of Communication. What was going on there?
I have no idea.
Yeah, it's like, climate change isn't going to kill us. Vertigo is. Just keep looking at my hands. It was bad. What an about-face. And it really gives up the whole entire grift that we always knew it was.
It angers me.
It drives me crazy because you know this. The movement has not only just changed again, but it changed in name 3 times before we got here. We were going to freeze to death in the 70s. Can you give me some money? We were going to melt in the 80s. Can you give me a couple of bucks? Then they were like, all right, we're not freezing, we're not melting, but the weather changes every day. How about a couple of bucks?
Right.
When no one gave in anymore, they were like, we're all going to die. And if you don't believe us, here's a 12-year-old Greta Thunberg to guilt you into giving us money. Right. Even she moved on. When the kid that was brought out to guilt us left town, I knew the jig was up, and here we are.
I mean, it's unbelievable. Remember this, when we were told the world was going to end.
This is the one challenge that could completely end human civilization.
The world is going to end in 12 years if we don't address climate change.
If we don't get our act together, the world that you will be bringing your children up in and your grandchildren up in will be increasingly unhealthy and uninhabitable.
If we don't, it will be a death sentence to countless of people.
Or it won't be. One or the other. Either they're 100% wrong. I'd say they're wrong.
And the one thing all of those people have in common is at the end of that speech, when they passed around the collection plate, they then got into a private jet.
Exactly.
And flew, except for Greta. She sailed to Gaza and moved on to the next protest. Give Greta credit. She at least traveled by boat once in a while.
Right.
And by the way, Al Gore made a lot of money off that Earth in the Balance
Big
book,
money. And
which-
yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry. I was going to say. And his Tennessee mansion had an electric bill that made the Las Vegas Strip look Amish. Okay.
True.
They were all frauds. All of them.
Right. So, I just love the way you cut off Griff and then just
I didn't mean
it
to.
anyway. No,
Griff got me worked up there.
So yes, everybody who is screaming the world is ending, the sky is falling, well, I've lived through, I believe, 9 of these, 7 of them being existential threats, and 4 of them literally being death to humanity within a certain amount of time. All of that has passed. None of it came to fruition. It was all done for profit. Follow the money. It's just the way it is. Now, Alberta. Alberta, well, they could be on their way out a lot sooner than they were hoping. And after they had a rally that, of course, none of the mainstream went to, the actual Marshal Service estimated it to be around 20,000 people who showed up in front of the Edmonton, Alberta Legislative Building. And they'd rather promote this whole teachers thing, which is a farce. It's an absolute farce. Parents are coming out of the woodwork and they're saying enough is enough. This is all politics. It has nothing to do about your kids. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. It is a political weapon. So you'll know the parents that are brainwashed because their kids supposedly are out there today picketing. And now, of course, the mainstream's trying to focus their cameras on that with the 2 kids that are skipping school today, saying how they support the teachers and bad government and all the rest. Whereas anybody with any logic, especially a parent, understands the wokeism that has taken over our school and how that entire union is truly, they only stand for one thing: socialism. And the union is a manipulative tool used by Liberals and NDP. Now out west, especially the NDP, who really kind of proved their colors as they all dumped their own party, because now the Socialist Party is the Liberals. So let's dabble a little bit onto where Alberta's at.
A few thousand people waved royal blue Alberta flags Saturday in front of the legislature, declaring their province would be better off without Canada. The Alberta Prosperity Project organized this rally, a group that wants the referendum question, do you agree that the province of Alberta shall become a sovereign country and cease to be a province in Canada? Alberta's court system will test the question's constitutionality next month before the group can gather signatures.
Alberta has sacrificed enough.
The people here already know they'd vote yes. At the rally, some like Colin Krumka believe federal equalization payments and environmental laws have limited Alberta.
I've worked 44 years.
Now, this is the CBC footage. I wanted to show you this because you'll get to see all of the propaganda at its like, this is what they do. First of all, they say a few thousand, right? And notice how they're only focusing on people who have Trump hats. This is professional propaganda, people.
In the oil patch, and the East has always taken from here and abused it. And I'm sick and tired of it.
Others, like 38-year-old Katrina Baker, just don't trust Ottawa.
I wish Alberta could stay part of Canada, but unfortunately it's been this way for so long. Nothing's going to change. And especially with Carney, it's going to get a lot worse.
Though economists have warned Alberta would be poorer without Canada, 24-year-old Ryan Cooper believes the cost of living would go down.
I can't afford a house, right? Like, everything. Cost of food has gone up exponentially. It is brutal.
Darwin Thiessen, who wore a Make Alberta Great Again hat, thinks it would be okay if the province joined the U.S.
Do you see what they're doing? Do you see that?
If we separate as an individual province or become part of the 51st state, either or. But I think we need to stand up, because if we don't stand up, we're just going to be bowled over.
A second petition, pushing for MLAs to vote on Alberta staying in Canada, is approaching its deadline. It needs to hit 300,000 signatures by Tuesday.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
Easy. Pop out to Israel for a few days to cover some stuff and everything breaks out in Alberta. We have, the biggest independence rally ever held in the province up in Edmonton. Daniel Smith has done a back-to-work order for striking teachers. And Thomas Fabio Lukasik, has triggered an independence referendum.
Yeah.
It's been beautiful to watch this weird flipping and flopping from that man. Well, he tries to claim, well, no, I didn't really want to have a referendum. I just wanted to have everybody vote in the legislature on it. What? I mean, I had to admit, I was kind of impressed. Look, it takes a lot of ground effort, a lot of union funding, and God knows what else. But to get over 400 and some thousand signatures on a petition, but now he's saying, well, no, I don't actually want a referendum. Actually, you're lying, Thomas. You're lying through your teeth. Because the application says it right there. What you were petitioning for was a referendum. The people signing it were signing on the premise that it was going to trigger a referendum. So I don't know what you thought you were doing. Basically, I guess you didn't think about it. All this effort, you didn't think about it. Because, yeah, the response from the Alberta Prosperity Project and other independence advocates are pointing out, well, guess we're having an independence referendum. I mean, now there's some things to sort out of all this. And I gotta admit, I'm not sure how this is all gonna iron out in the end. For one, he did his application based on it being a policy proposal, not a constitutional one, which changes the bar. He also, his is phrased on a negative. It's basically a nothing burger petition. It's saying we want to vote to keep things the same. But I mean, the way the legislation works, the legislature, if they're going to hold the referendum, actually can amend and change some of the text of the question. I think they have a valid case in saying, well, this is a nothing burger question. We don't need to waste everybody's time to have them come out and have a referendum on saying, hey, would you all like to do nothing? But since clearly 450,000 people want a referendum on this issue, we should flip it around then and move it to the positive and make it constitutionally compliant with the Clarity Act and have it clear and saying, do you want Alberta to leave the Federation? Just changing it to a positive to a negative. It's the same question. It's just which way we're going to ask it.
Exactly.
So in other words, inadvertently, Thomas Lukasik and his Forever Canadian bunch have saved all the time and effort that the Alberta Prosperity Project would have had to do. And Premier Smith sort of said as much. Well, okay, Thomas, you asked for a referendum. We're going to get a referendum on independence. Thank you. Now, if this happens, we got a lot of things still to go through. So looking at Fabio's petition.
All right, so here's the kicker. The stars are aligning. The stars are aligning, people. So the Liberals are purposely throwing a budget together. And of course, this falls right into the Carney playbook. So that he can spend just unlimited amounts of money. I mean, it's already going to take, a lot of economists have worked this out, and just personally me doing the math on our debt, it's going to take 5 generations. 5 generations. And this is if we eventually get a conservative government in that removes all of the barriers that have been put up that is crushing Canada and why companies are fleeing to pay off the debt. 5 generations. And that's not pay off the debt in whole. That's to get us to a place where the interest payments are low enough that we can start to actually put money fiscally responsible back into our system. Now, there's a whole bunch going on here. So okay. So Ottawa is more detrimental to Canadians than Washington, D.C. So this week, the organization this author represents, the Coalition of Concerned Manufacturers and Businesses Canada, CCMBC, launched a billboard campaign with the message that the vast majority of Canada's problems arise from our own domestic government's policies rather than the U.S. or any other foreign government. Ever since Donald Trump was elected to the President of the United States, many Canadian politicians have attempted to escape responsibility by blaming the U.S. for Canada's many woes. Indeed, current Prime Minister Mark Carney's recent election into government was won largely by painting Trump as the guy responsible for Canada's poor performance and convincing enough Canadians to buy into this fiction. The truth, however, is that Canada's current economic and societal breakdowns predated Trump's election by years. Bad policies implemented by both the federal Liberals and some provinces weakened Canada so that it was poorly equipped to deal with the threats from U.S. or any other countries, such as China. Canada's decline has been constant since former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau was first elected and has not improved with Carney as a Prime Minister. Now, by the way, India has just slapped 30% tariffs on Canadian peas. Elbows up, people. Now, again, I post everything. I urge you read this in its entirety. This is just, it's more evidence of what mainstream doesn't want you to know. This is why I always urge you to like, share, and subscribe. You got to get this information out, and they have to have access to it. So, in the description, read it in its entirety. Great article, breaks it right down. Love the billboards. I hope they put more up, especially since there's an election coming. So, now, stars are aligning because if this purposeful, because of the Liberals, they want to seek a majority. They've got propaganda on their side already pushing. Again, previous episodes, I had said this a while ago. They're going to try anything possible. In fact, this whole ad campaign, it could very well be a ploy done by the Liberals, that's Dougie, Mr. Liberal, and the federal Liberal Party, to push this Trump hate. Trump is the cause of everything in Canada's problems. Bullcrap. In order to secure that majority. If this budget falls and we get an election and the Liberals win a majority, Alberta is gone. Gone. This will be what it takes for those sitting on the sidelines to go, oh shit, they were right. We're never going to get ahead. They're going to keep taking and beating the living daylights out of the West, and we need to get out. Which, we need to get out. Now, Mo, moving slow, has been kind of trying to do the same thing, but hasn't got right onto the bandwagon and actually used any kind of threats to it. He's been trying to suppress the movement that's happening in Saskatchewan. It's huge, people. Saskatchewan's on board. Just because you don't hear a lot of it doesn't mean it's not there. We statistically, 7 years ago, had a higher percentage of population that wanted to leave Canada than Alberta did. We were at 67, Alberta was at 65. Now the tables have turned a little wee bit. But it's still a huge percentage. And now there's even more groups that are forming. And I urge all of those groups, please, you guys, there are some great pages out there. Make sure you join all of them. Keep the numbers tight, because this is what mainstream does. This is what politicians will do, is they will pull apart and use little we and say, well, there's only 5,000 here, or there's only 10,000 here, and that's irrelevant. But as a whole, we're looking at 100 or more thousand people. Now, I'm just scrolling through a few here on Facebook, and the number is over 100,000, which is pretty impressive. And I'm sure there's a lot more that I can't find. So I urge you guys, seek and search out, find these, all of the separation, join up, and help every individual one in order to get the numbers up. Now, if the election's called and they win a minority again, it still aligns the stars to show Alberta they don't matter. And Saskatchewan, we don't matter. We will never, ever, and we still have never, ever had any type of Western, well, there's never been any Western ideology in Canada. They blame the Conservative. They always say, well, the Conservatives won, the West won. No, we only win because we have Eastern MPs and we have to appease the Eastern provinces or we lose the majority. No matter which way this goes, the West always loses. And right now, BC, even though the BC Conservative Party is like falling apart, they need a leader. Like they got to get rid of the goofball they got in there right now. They're polling ahead. They're soaring ahead of the NDP. A lot of people in BC are part of the separatist pages in Alberta and Saskatchewan. There's even pages that include BC as that independent Western separation. This is huge, people. This is huge. One of the big things right now that's going on is the gun grab. The gun grab is really starting to shake, rattle, and roll a lot of people who normally would never even think about separating. But in order for them to protect not only their hobby, but what feeds them, what protects them, and is part of who it is for them to be Canadian, has woke up a large portion who are now saying, you know what? If these guys get a majority, they're gonna come into our homes. They're gonna take our guns. And now Scott Moe has jumped on this and he said, no. This isn't happening.
Now, speaking of prioritizing the people of a province, Scott Moe, big dog energy on the Evan Bray show, talking about Mark Carney's gun grab and the federal overreach, and he basically said, yeah, not in Saskatchewan, thanks so much.
I don't want to spend all my time on the public safety stuff because there's a lot of it in there, but there's others I want to get to. But the firearm thing caught my attention. Any details on how that's going to roll out, ensuring firearm owners who have their guns taken as a result of this federal buyback will receive fair compensation?
So first, you won't have them taken in Saskatchewan because you would need a provincial license to go out and gather up guns, and that is currently an unfunded department, that licensing department in the province. So no one will be out taking firearms in Saskatchewan that have been deemed illegal by the federal government. However, the federal government has now chosen to depart from what they did with handguns and criminalize the ownership of certain long guns. And so there may be some folks that want to voluntarily to bring their guns in and turn them over to the federal government. And what we're saying is there will have to be an evaluation done on those guns. They'll be run through our ballistics laboratory, and they'll have to be paid for by the federal government before anybody can even voluntarily turn their firearms over. But nobody's licensed in the province, nor will they be in the foreseeable future to come and gather up in any mass way people's firearms.
Okay, I want to shift gears. Let's go to...
You know what? That is brilliant.
It is
brilliant. I don't know if you people at home just picked up what he was putting down there. He said, we made it a law that if you want to be involved in the gun grab in Saskatchewan, you have to be licensed through the province. But currently, that is an unfunded government agency. And so what that means is we won't be licensing anybody to do it.
Right.
So you have to be licensed.
So it's not only that. He also has legislated that if somebody, which there isn't anybody, trust me, people, nobody's giving in their weapons. The only people who are so far are companies that are sellers of them, because pretty much the government knows they have the guns and they don't want to get charged. Saskatchewan has made it so that you have to actually pay for the gun. So what the Liberals did is the Liberals purposely cut down, because this has already been blown way out of proportion. They have spent so much money. Like, it's just insane. They could have fixed not only the borders crossing into the States, they could be actually inspecting the coastal ports with all of the money that they've spent on this gun registry. And they're hiding funds. They're not actually showing actually how much has really gone into this. if you take your gun in Saskatchewan, and the federal government says, well, we ran out of money, then the government in Saskatchewan says, well, then you can't take the gun. They've created a constitutional loophole. It's brilliant. This is absolutely brilliant. Now, of course, Alberta, it's kind of along the same lines. There's a few of the provinces that were kind of humming and hawing about it, but of course, with the Liberalism and NDPism, it's a kind of a no-go. We'll see what happens out east now that a Conservative government has won. We'll see what happens out there. We know that there's a big battle going on out there as well because, well, that whole power thing. Okay, so you'll notice different shirt, different day. Now, I had to race away to meetings, and I had this video all done and uploaded it, and boom, I got hit with a copyright. So, of course, that limits. Now, I'm going to have to redo this little segment in here because this little piece is why Newfoundland and Labrador should separate and become an independent state or country. Please, you people, find music. You want everybody to share this stuff. Now, the Liberals are really good at doing this. They purposely put in copyright on a lot of the little things they do so that we can't actually use it, and we have to, and then it looks like, and then they can say, oh, look, they're editing what we're saying, and like Carney's newest he just put out this morning. If you want to get your stuff shared, and you're asking me, like these are sent to me, you want this shared, find music that isn't copyrighted, or don't put music in it. And then we can share it. And you can have your voice and all the rest of it. Now, as it is, I'm just going to have to read what this ad is saying, what this promotional video that has been put out by the Republic of Newfoundland and Labrador Association. Now, this is a group. It's growing. It's getting huge. So, anyways, this should have aired yesterday. Yeah. This is the hassles that independents have trying to stick together with all of these different organizations in order to promote what you guys want to get promoted. And what is our job to get it out there so that, sorry, just the truth, just the facts, the reality of what's going on in Canada, in the world, can be shared. I always post the links, so you'll have the link to this video below. You can watch it with the music, the copyrighted music. But until then, I'll read through this. Why Newfoundland and Labrador should separate from Canada. Newfoundland and Labrador's natural resources, including fisheries, offshore oil, and hydroelectric power, have been heavily exploited under Canadian control. The collapse of the cod fishery, exasperated by mismanagement and overfishing, much of it due to the benefit of other provinces. The Churchill Falls Agreement, which has cost Newfoundland and Labrador billions in lost revenue, benefiting Quebec disproportionately. And independent Newfoundland could reclaim control over its resources, ensuring revenues are reinvested into the local economy. Newfoundland often has limited influence in Canadian federal politics, with its interests overshadowed by larger provinces like Ontario and Quebec. Decisions affecting Newfoundland are often made in Ottawa without adequate local input, perpetuating feelings of alienation. Independence would allow Newfoundland to govern itself without interference, prioritizing the needs and desires of its people. Newfoundland's geographic location makes it a gateway to the North Atlantic, offering significant strategic and economic opportunities. As an independent nation, Newfoundland could leverage its position to negotiate trade deals, build international partnerships, and attract investment, particularly in energy, shipping, and tourism. Now, I'm going to cut back to yesterday's video. And 52,000, and the number is climbing on that. So, like, the Liberals have absolutely destroyed our nation. So now you have Quebec, who we thought was going to be the first ones to separate, which that may not happen now if this Alberta referendum actually goes through. Saskatchewan, of course, Alberta, BC, this is a huge talking point. We could end up becoming a form of a republic here very soon, if not just a whole bunch of independent countries. Either which way, it's good because we have to rip apart the socialism that has taken over our nation. And the only way to do it is to literally cut out the heart of it, which is Quebec and Ontario. And if Quebec and Ontario are feuding like they are right now, then the idea that they could separate, I don't think will happen. Because look at the vote. Look at the federal vote. The Bloc got decimated in their own province. So yet that same province, the provincial party who is platforming on separation is ahead of everybody else in the polls. You see where I'm getting at? So there's a lot of confusion going on about this. I actually don't know if Quebec has it in them to separate. I really don't. We're going to see, because again, if the Liberals end up landslide victory, securing a majority, Alberta's gone, Saskatchewan's going to follow, guaranteed. What becomes of Quebec? If Quebec votes in a whole bunch of federal Liberals, and then the Separatist Party gets in, the federal party will be able to dismantle any steps forward the province wants to put forward. And trust me, as I've said on previous episodes, they're already looking into ways, they're spending money behind closed doors, the federal government is, to stop any province from ever seceding. This is the reality. And in the meantime, you got media who is just, they're blatantly hiding. It's amazing how, propaganda controls. And this, again, make sure you like, share, and subscribe because the word has to get out there. This is why we have the problems we're in right now. So, flying saucers, crystal paperweights, and branded apples inside the Fed's promotional merch splurge. Bamboo toothbrushes and beeswax wraps, temporary tattoos and hockey pucks, maple candy and chocolate bonbons, tractor-shaped air fresheners and Yukon soap, moccasins and socks. The feds seem eager to slap a logo on just about anything and pay any price to make it happen. Federal departments and crown corporations spent about $13 million on branded promotional items since January 2022, according to government records obtained by the Canadian Taxpayers Federation. It's like the government had a contest to see which department could come up with the dumbest way to spend taxpayers' money, and they all won, said Franco Terrazino. This is what happens when you have too many bureaucrats with too many tax dollars. The government shelled out $207,000 on various hats across all departments, $607,000 on different types of bags, over $40,000 on Yeti and Stanley drinkware. In an apparent shout out to former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, the feds collectively splurged on, you ready for this? $51,800 worth of socks. Unbelievable. The government released the data in response to an order paper question submitted by Conservative MP Michelle Rempel-Garner. Rempel-Garner asked for records of all branded and promotional products purchased by departments or crown corporations from January 1st, 2022. People, this is only from January 1st, 2022 to June 6th of this year. The CTF reviewed the 900-page release package, a virtual catalog of capricious spending. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police was the biggest spender by far, with a merch price tag of $4 million. However, the Mounties declined to submit a detailed inventory of expenditures. You can't make this stuff up. Literally, just wasting our taxpayer dollars. In the meantime, we end up finding out that just 25% of the people who are visiting the food banks, the numbers are skyrocketing, are immigrants. So there you have it, guys. Like I said, a little bit of a shorter episode here today. I've got to head out. This is the reality. This is what's going down. I mean, you're seeing it from the world out all the way into Canada. Canada's one of the few last. I mean, the UK's in big trouble. Ireland's in big trouble. There's a few of these countries where they swung heavy leftist. The whole green tech, because they allowed their politicians, who are all part of this global cabal, to use their own tax dollars to make billions of dollars of profit for the few off the backs of the many. And we're starting to see the fight back. Now in Canada, the nicety of what it is to be Canadian is slowly dissolving. You have those who have gone completely yuck and lost their mind, screaming elbows up, who have caused more damage to Canada with the last election than even imaginable. Corporations are fleeing people. Nobody wants any money. Nobody wants to spend their money in Canada. And then you have the separatist parties, the provinces themselves. And now smart provinces like out west, we understand that you can't vote in. You can't remove the party that you have provincially and think that if you have some type of a separatist party, you're going to have a say at the table. All you do is you remove the power of ever having a consolidated vote between the Western provinces. That kind of is the Conservative Party. So this election is the make or break. If Poilievre doesn't win a majority government, we could see in a year's time provinces start to literally become independent nations. And you're going to see the fall of socialism in Canada. You're going to see Ontario go completely bankrupt. Now, I don't know how Quebec's going to do on their own. I think they're going to go bankrupt too, unless they start extracting their own oil and gas. We'll see. Time will tell. But yeah, so climate change, proven crap. It's not the end of the world. Election looking like it's underway thanks to the Liberals seeking for power and the help of propaganda. The West, Alberta, gets its referendum because the people who actually put it through prove that they're idiots. This is Canada. I hope you like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, I'm Alias Tagay. You've been watching the Canadian Citizen Journal. Stay informed.